Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and with sunglasses on in his home, Henry Abbott. How are you, sir?
Feeling really stupid. It's not a good look. This is not what I would ordinarily recommend in this situation. But as soon as you join the call, you're like, why are you wearing sunglasses?
Well, knowing you as well as I do, it had to be a legitimate reason, because you're not someone who's just going to put on sunglasses for no reason inside the house. Like, that's just dumb, right? Like, so, you got some...
I don't even like these sunglasses. These are like some sunglasses that I got for running because like they don't fall off.
Well, but that's the most important part about it.
It's very important. But they're not like the lookers, They're not like I chose these ones at the store that'll just look great on me. But anyway, I have a very kind of grotesque sty in my eye right now. Have you ever had a sty?
Oh, I had a little stretch here this summer where I was getting like styes all the time. They weren't gross. They made the eye puffy, and I was like, can we just stop with the styes, please? They're really annoying.
I didn't even know, when I got married, I had never known anybody who had a sty. And my wife would occasionally get them, and I felt like, everybody has their own little oddities of their bodies, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And then after like maybe 10 years of marriage, like I caught it. Like I became a sty guy. Yeah. Every now and again, I get a sty, and it's such a hassle. And
it is pain in the ass.
It's pain in the ass. So anyway, I'm only wearing the sunglasses so everybody won't have to look at my disgusting eye.
Well, those who are watching on video, they probably appreciate it.
Honestly, don't. I give my advice today. Just don't watch on video. It's not a good show to watch. This is a good listener. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. All right, Henry. David's off doing basketball stuff with players. So excited to have you on today because we're going to discuss so many awesome things. Last episode, we had a Rudy Gobert conversation. David wanted to bring it up because of Shaq's comments. We pretty much kind of exhausted what that was all about. One of the great things, and I mentioned you on the pod Monday, Henry, because in our Monday content calls, you asked the question, well, when you're hating on Rudy Gobert, the question really that you want to ask is, what is basketball to you, right? Like, what is the sport of basketball? Because if it is one-on-one and highlights and all the awesome things that gets everybody excited, well, then Rudy Gobert fucking sucks, right? Because he does none of those things that you like. But if you think basketball is a game of 5-on-5 and jazz and the importance of defense, which, as we say on this show a million times, because it's true, is half the game, well, then Rudy Gobert is pretty fucking good and very important for your team to win, right? And so, that's sort of like this crux with Rudy. This push pulls back. And then there's, of course, things about Rudy's personality people don't like, and that time that Draymond Green put him in a rear naked chokehold, and all these things.
Kind of right? French.
He's French, which people don't like that. Like there's a lot.
The French in the NBA just have always been a little
people just not feeling them for whatever reason. And it's fine. It's what it is. These guys all got their egos, but a listener to the podcast sent in a question and wanted to kind of follow up on that. And, is basically just like, do you think players, professional, tend to evaluate other players more on the basis of 1v1 skills rather than necessarily on how those players play and contribute to winning in a 5-on-5 contest and a 5-on-5 context? And it made me think about this sort of late era of players. So like, let's say like your LeBron, not even past LeBron. So like your KD, Steph, like that era, like same era as LeBron, but like came in a couple years after him, right? All those guys revere players like Allen Iverson, Kobe, Carmelo Anthony. And it's also, I think, a truism, right, of the NBA, right, Henry, where like offensive players especially love tough shot makers. That is their favorite NBA. And I'm just like, we all agree, making tough shot is it might be the most valuable skill to have, right? Because when everything breaks down, do I have someone that can make a tough shot? You need those guys, right? But it isn't the only skill that matters. We've gotten to this point where it's gotten out of whack, where that's the only skill people think that is relevant. And it's like, yeah, but maybe you shouldn't be in the spot in the first place where you need to make a tough shot, right?
Yeah. I think about, for some reason, these weird moments of your life just like stick with you. And I was going through like the ugliest part of Newark Airport when they were like under construction and all the security in Terminal A was like jammed into this like windowless. Yeah, maybe there's windows, but it's
totally looking great now. By the way,
you're crammed against the side as like people are coming out, whatever. Mm-hmm. And this guy comes by, and he's like he's a really good looking like 25-year-old like fit guy, and his shirt he says, "Trust no one." And I'm always like, man, I wish he could trust somebody.
It wasn't
Right?
one person.
Like it'd be so much happier if he could trust like 1, 2, 10 people. Like life is so much better, right?
Yeah.
And like, but I think that a lot of people feel that way, right? I think especially when you're young, right? I think it's normal just to feel like it's me against the world, and you want to go climb a mountain or conquer the whatever you're going to conquer, right? And it's really awesome to have a role model in that who's like an absolute warrior, right? And so Michael Jordan worked perfectly for that. Kobe Bryant worked perfectly for that, right? Like these were like their teammates,
don't like them.
Yes, but also like you just they didn't need to be part of the story.
Yeah.
Right. Like Michael solved the problem, right? Like we needed a bucket late in the game. He ran over and took the ball from Karl Malone, and then I forget what happened next. He hits the shot over Brian Russell. So, that's the way that this is the Jason Bourne view of the world, right? Where it's like, okay, cool. Like, that's one vision, and it's very easy to love. And I think it's very easy to love if you're growing up to become an NBA player, right? Like you are working on those skills. And I for something else, I just looked at Anthony Simons is I forget the numbers exactly, but something like 98th percentile in offensive skills and first percentile in defense, right? Like
not good.
This is kind of where it gets you, right? It's like he's a dunk champion, and he once made 13 consecutive threes. These are very rare, hardworking skills, and he just doesn't really do defense. He just doesn't really do it. He absolutely could. So yeah, it's very common, I think. So I think, remember Shaq used to have all these fantasies of being a point guard? He would say that he sees himself as a kind of skill player who happens to have this huge body, right? And I think when he sees Rudy Gobert not able to do any point guard things, and not able to break anybody down with the dribble, not able to do anything like Michael Jordan did, he sees someone who sucks. Yeah. Right. And like, meanwhile, if you look at the game of what actually wins, much trickier question, like Rudy Gobert is not perfect. Don't get me, I'm not going to tell you he's perfect, but, and he's maybe a little bit more imperfect for right now than he was like 5 years ago or whatever. Right. But nevertheless, fucking great, 4-time defensive player of the year. Like he doesn't suck at basketball. He sucks at Michael Jordaning, hero ball. He sucks at hero ball, which is maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna guess it's really 5% of the game, but we treat it like it's 75% of the game.
We do. It is often that's the part that gets distilled down, and that's the part that gets talked about and highlighted and NBA Twittered, and that's all that matters, right? It's like, oh my God, so and so went on a heater and nuclear. I mean, what did you say about Anthony Simons? He wants to hit 13 threes in a game because that's what people want to talk about.
And it's amazing when he does.
Yes.
You get 13 stops in a game, like no one even knows it happened.
Nope.
Actually, here's another little, like, we just are so obsessed with offense, which is great. I get it. It makes sense. Like, it's easier to see. It's more fun. It's the goal of the game. But if someone goes on a 26-0 run, he's like, well, how'd they do it? Like, I guarantee you they will talk about how they scored the 26.
But not about how they didn't give up 0 points either.
You don't even have to have good offense.
Right.
If you get a bunch of stops, you will be on a 26-0 run.
Correct.
Like that's it. Like that's all you have to do. But nobody, like the O is just not so interesting.
0, no one cares about that. That kind of sucks.
Tell me how nothing happened. Why? Like we're all gonna die one day, and that will have been a really boring 5 minutes of our lives. Like.
Oh, too good. But yes, I mean that is the story, right? It is defense and those other things, and it are just sort of like they're things that are much harder to define and quantify, but they nevertheless are very critical to winning. And we'll get into that a little bit later on a piece that Henry wrote that came out today called "Victory Cake Has Many Ingredients," which I love because it sure does. Cake's got lots of ingredients, and unlike an actual cake that you eat, Victory Cake, we know the ingredients, but how much of each thing, a little nebulous at that point. I don't know.
So the recipe is a mystery, kind of like a urinal cake. Nobody knows what's in that cake. Does anybody know? I have no. Do you know? I have
no idea.
It's not delicious. Whatever it is. It's a bad cake.
So we'll get into that in a bit. But something that you brought to our attention in the True Hoop chat, Henry, was a look at teams who are got bloated salaries and are above the luxury tax. They're at the first apron, headed towards second apron, and they're just paying a shit ton of money. And the likelihood of any of those teams winning a title, aside from Boston, and not great, right? Like we have look at the Phoenix Suns, for instance, right? They're the team at the top.
They're the champs. They are the champs.
They are the champs of this. I want to say their total salary is $220 million this year, something like that. No, 234. Right, so it's a lot of money. And the likelihood they win a title is not high, right? Probably less than 1%, or maybe 1%. I don't know the number, but it ain't great. Let's put it this way: in David's 8 teams that he picked as contenders, the Suns were not among those 8 teams. So the question becomes, how do teams figure out when they're in a situation like the Phoenix Suns, right? How do we get ourselves out of this situation where we're paying a ton in luxury tax? We're in the repeater tax. We're at that second apron, right? All those fancy words we heard about, the new CBA that was going to cost Matt Ishbia a ton of money, which he's not going to be thrilled about when they're not winning, right? How does he get himself out of this situation? Which, by the way, he put himself in, to be fair. How does he get out of this situation and figure out a way to keep the team at least competitive in the short term that fans want to come and watch, and also replenish and think about the long term, get some of that draft capital back and look down the road, right? Admittedly, a difficult task for this team.
Yeah, it's not easy. Shout out to Mike Shearer of Basketball Poetry. He's like, I feel like I know everybody in NBA media, but it's not true anymore, right? There's a bunch of new people that I don't know, and he's definitely one of the people I don't know, but I consistently found myself like going, that's fascinating. Like, and he had a little thing about salary cap with a beautiful little chart, which shows just how absolutely batshit crazy Matt Ishbia is with his, like in the little chart version, like basically the entire NBA is kind of gathered together just beneath the luxury tax line. And there's a few little people in the first apron and a few in the second apron. And then there's just 4 teams at the tippity top. The goddamn champion Boston Celtics,
which
the Milwaukee Bucks, who, you know, when they committed all this money, were champions. Timberwolves are going for it with their Gobert. And then there's just like
the Suns,
like a big gap. Once you see it like that, you're like, what are they doing? And they're just not that good. They're just not that good.
No.
And no one thinks they're going to be good. And they can't make any moves, right? So there's so many rules confining them from how they might, like, if their goal came to be what Matt Ishbia has said it is, which is basically just to like tweak in the margins and keep it all together and win with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, then like they can't. Like those deals are almost impossible, right? They can just have minimum people. And anyway, so I don't know what the goal is for Matt Ishbia, right? I honestly am open to the idea that like sitting on the back of a boat with Kevin Durant
and Devin
Booker and a gold medal like might be the end game. That might be the championship, right? And if you're a Suns fan, that absolutely blows.
Yep.
Right? Jock sniffing is not your game; it's his game, right? Like I would be sad for everyone if that's the end of the line. But it might be that they're just going to keep all these people because Matt Ishbia likes hanging out with them. I literally think that's possible.
And like, Henry, they did the dumbest thing by getting a third person who has a no trade clause and they can't even move, and Bradley Beal.
It's the worst. So, like, if you know, it's like a thinking fast and slow thing, right?
Yep.
If thinking fast, just like, ooh, so fun, we're all in, do this, then if that's the end game, and it just seems to be kind of how he runs his mortgage business. Is just like it's almost like a party, right?
Yep.
Like high energy, cursing, and whatever.
Right.
If that's the goal, then they're just going to stick with this, and we'll just see how it goes. And they'll be like, you know, the Dolan Knicks in the early days, or like the Paul Allen Blazers, where they just assemble this all-star team that just doesn't work.
Right.
And ultimately that's very, very painful because it takes like a decade to crawl out of that, right? If, however, I know there are smart people who work there, and if their long-term planning, sober brains prevail, then David has the answer. he just straight up texted out of nowhere that he's been thinking so much about a couple of trades, and I will roll through David's stolen ideas right now.
Love it.
Actually, in fairness, he had some big high-level concepts. I actually did the hard work of going to the trade machine. All right,
fair enough. Fair enough. You did the imaginations. All right, good idea, but does it actually work?
Kind of my idea, really, if you think about it. And I know, keep your heart rate slow, listeners, when I say this at first, because you're going to be like, you know, this couldn't possibly happen.
Right.
But just
lose your mind. Relax.
Chill for a second. All right. So trade idea number 1 from David is Kevin Durant traded to the Thunder. We know the Thunder can put together almost any kind of package you want because Sam Presti has an infinite magical bag of draft picks. So you would reach in that bag and hand off some very valuable things for the future. I don't know exactly how many picks it would take. And then Case and Wallace Isaiah Hartenstein and Aaron Wiggins would make the contracts work. This could only happen in October once Isaiah's not a recently signed player anymore. But Thorpe's thinking there, I happen to know, is he loves Case and Wallace. As do I. Hartenstein is like maybe the best defensive player in the league in the stats.
Great rebounder, like offensive rebounder. Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah. And then whatever, I don't know what the pick situation would be. KD's of like value, but not quite peak KD value. He has a huge contract now, more than $50 million. I like it for the Thunder because, they can get almost any player they want, especially now they have this Hartenstein contract, which is like of a decent size, and he's good value, tradable guy, can match salaries,
and young,
so they can get almost anybody they want. But there's a problem with almost every older established star you might get. The Thunder have a real problem because if they don't get a big star, it's because they decided not to. And if they don't win a championship, everyone's going to be like, why did you decide not to? Right? If they do, though, KD's a pretty good one to get. One, he's still an excellent player. Two, there's some poetry to
coming home and all that.
But 3, he plays well next to Shea. He plays good D, which isn't that common for older stars, right? 4, he has 2 years left on his deal right now. So you get a year of maybe winning a championship. They would probably they would instantly be the heavy favorites if they did this deal, right? And if for some reason it doesn't work, you're not exactly stuck with this terrible deal. It's a huge deal,
right?
And if it doesn't work, it's probably because he's injured, right? But then it's expiring the following year, so you could either keep it to drop your payroll and bunch, or you could get something for him even if he's not playing at a high level. So I don't know. It feels kind of elegant, to me. And I know
I love it. I think it's a great movie for both. But the problem is, Mashfield will think it's a shitty move, so he won't do it.
That's how he won't do it. And it just takes patience, right? The pick they would get, it would be something that would pay off in 5 years, and
Well, then it's what you often talk about, Henry, which is on the Suns side, they have to do what the Thunder have been doing for the last 6 years, which is the hard work, developing this guy, figure out. Most teams don't want to do that. I mean, the Lakers they clearly don't want to do that shit, right? It's get me LeBron, get me awesome guys who are already ready to make, because we have zero time and patience and effort, or frankly, knowledge and wherewithal to go through the hard path of developing. That's work and difficult.
Yeah.
So those picks work to identify, develop them, put them in the right scenario. Like,
and all the while people are saying you're dumb shit.
Yeah, correct.
Right? Like if you have a losing record, everyone thinks you're an idiot. Whether you're the GM or the coach or the star or whatever, everyone's like, they don't want to figure it out. It's like, no, they're just doing a long-term thing, and you're doing a short-term analysis, right? But the upside is that little chart from Mike Shearer I was talking about. There's a big kind of sweeping line of like the middle teams of the NBA, and down near the cheapest teams is the Oklahoma City fucking Thunder. And they're like number 2 in David's list. Like their, cost per win this upcoming season is going to be like record setting. That's how it's been a long time building this. Maybe it's not worth it to you,
right?
But they are in the catbird seat now. Like the next decade is going to be good because they can just do whatever they want. They have so many young players. They honestly, one reason for them to do this is they probably just can't give Case and Wallace the ball enough to be Case and Wallace, because there's so many other good players, right? He's not going to get his big deal from them. We already know that, because they have too many good players already. So
Chet's going to get a deal at some point. Jalen Williams, right? They already have Shea. Like, that's, it's
going to be those 3, right? So the question is, like, how can you tack onto those 3? It's not so simple, but Kevin Durant, not bad.
No, that would work out pretty well right now. It's similar to when the Warriors had Steph, who's excellent, on a super cheap deal, right? That's how they were able to get Kevin Durant, right? Like you do that when you can make the move. If you're the Thunder, Henry, I have to think, if you're Sam Preston, he has the most job security of any GM in the league, right? He will leave when he feels like leaving. I don't know, wasn't that 8-10 years ago now, when all you had to do, and it's probably not his decision, it was probably the Clay Bennett at the time, the owner. All you had to do was pay James Harden $5 million more, and you would have kept that trio together. $5 million is what you lost him over. A team that, by the way, went to the NBA Finals that prior year. So now do they say, all right, we kind of fucked up on that one over fucking $5 million, literally $5 million. Do we now say, screw it? Like we don't have to go crazy. Even a KD break doesn't even go crazy for us. It still doesn't screw us long term. I feel like it's a no-brainer. Easy.
Yeah, they like that Thunder ownership group has been under scrutinized in my view, right?
Mhm.
Like whatever happened there, I don't think it was Sam Presti's wish to just be cheap. That's weird. That's not how any GM thinks, right?
Correct.
Those are the same. Like they have heavy overlap with the people who did the Swift boat of John Kerry. Like there's just a, and then one of them seemingly committed suicide while he was getting investigated.
Yeah.
There's just there was the very snaky way they like lied in getting the team to Oklahoma City. It just seems like, and maybe now we will see, like we'll see this year if they're just not willing to pay luxury tax, no matter how magical Sam Presti is.
Right.
Then we know he's made a deal with the devil here, right? He's just like, I'll just be the best GM in the league, and this city might never get the champion they want because you guys
don't want
to be a little cheap on the margins.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. Okay. David has another trade for the Suns, right? We just already gave them the miracle of Case and Wallace and their incredible pick.
And that's the one, by the way, that would, because again, keep in mind, folks, they still keep Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, right? So they will still be competitive in the short term, right?
Unless they do David's other trade.
Then maybe not. Here it comes.
David's other trade is Devin Booker to the Warriors. He can tell you next time, have him talk about how he has a vision for Steph and Devin together. I'm just going to believe him on that. He thinks they're like perfect together.
I can see it.
Yeah. Come on, you don't want to play defense against that. But he has a more intricate view than I do of how that works. But yeah. For Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins, I'll point out here, who is not related to Aaron Wiggins, who was in the last trade.
Correct.
DeAnthony Melton and Gui Santos.
Okay. All right.
Otherwise known as cap filler. But that actually works.
Yeah.
The Suns end up with a lot better cap situation and Case and Wallace, Jonathan Kuminga, Bradley Beal.
Right. So still would have Kevin Durant under that circumstance, right?
Well, if they did both trades, right?
It was both. So you're doing both trades.
I think the idea would do both.
Okay.
Then the Suns are just like better positioned for the future. Presumably they would get picks out of the Warriors too.
Not as many as you would from the Thunder because the Warriors don't have as great a pick stash, but still.
Yeah. But Kuminga's not. I mean, Kuminga's a real. This is the time to
bet on Kuminga.
Right?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Anyway.
So yes, so to your point, you will not be as competitive now. Not as great. But you're gonna be like the Nets. They're gonna be 20 wins. They're gonna be that terrible. Like I don't.
And actually, keeping everybody, they might be terrible. It's possible. Like I mean, I say this only because they have 3 injury-prone older stars.
Correct.
Like they literally, they're kind of like they might be terrible. It might be that you keep everyone, have the biggest salary in the league, and just terrible as it is. And then once everybody gets injured, by the way, you can't trade them for the same stuff anymore.
Correct.
Like,
yeah. I listen. It's smart and it's prudent business to do this now and jump ahead of the gun. But then that would be Matt Ishbia admitting that he's dumb and and he's not. What billionaire do you know is willing to admit that they're not? None I know. Like no,
never seen it. Yeah,
I've never seen it because they
watch Succession one more time.
You'd be like, "Fuck off."
The whole point is to look impervious to any such things. Right?
Pretty much. Yeah. Listen, I like those trades a lot. I think. Look, Phoenix has to think about this, right? Like maybe not these trades specifically, but think about what is our future going to look like? Because you can't continue to pay this kind of money to be a first round playoff exit team. And that's, again, they were pretty good last year in terms of injury luck. Nothing major happened except for Bradley was, that was kind of the main, but the idea is probably one of those 3 a year, something's going to be happening, right? It's probably the likelihood. We've seen this movie before, folks. Like,
Yeah.
Do something different.
I'm sure there are other wonderful ideas too for what they could do, but I feel like, I'm a Blazers fan and they traded, it just seems so clear to me they traded Damian Lillard like 2 years too late.
Yeah.
Wait,
Henry, are you saying that when True Hoop reported that Damian Lillard wanted out, that was actually the time that he wanted to go?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I'll stand by that 100%. Okay. But also, like, I think for teams, it's like you if you have a Kevin Durant type player who could get you unbelievable trade return,
gotta move
and
him.
You're not going to win a championship.
Gotta move it.
Then just hang. What fans naturally want to do is just hold on a little longer Wait till all hope wanes and then trade him. But you don't get good value then.
You're getting
right?
nothing
like,
then. You're getting nothing then.
Yeah. This whole Thunder thing that we're talking about, the magic that they're on, started with trading Paul George when he was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They weren't going to win with him. He was fantastic.
Right.
And at that moment, they got this like absolutely stupid offer for him. Right? Like, get yourself a stupid offer. That's the kind of offer you want.
Listen, it was the Utah Jazz Rudy Gobert trade, right? That is clear. They weren't winning a title with the way that was constructed. Okay, fine. We're going to get 6 whatever draft picks and swaps and all that crap. That's what you want.
Well, this is a hastily concocted metaphor, but like, I think if your player is like seen as a 10 out of 10, they pay you 20 out of 10.
Yeah.
But if your player is seen as 7 out of 10, they pay you 6 out of 10. Yeah, right? Like, there's just a weird bonus here. Just get that bonus. Go get it.
It's like, listen, see, this is the part that drives me nuts about this stuff, Henry. These billionaires in their real life, where they make their real money, would never leave money like that on the table. Ever, under any circumstance. But in this world, do this shit all the time. Yeah. I'm like, why are you guys so dumb when it comes to this? Like,
they just are, Jarod. They just are. We just have to accept that.
They just fucking are dumb. Oh, man. All right, folks, we backed up this commercial break. All right, Henry, let's talk cake. You had a great article come out about victory cake.
Which is not a real thing. Yeah.
No, victory. Well, I'm sure someone probably made a cake once and called it a victory cake.
You're right. We should look that up. Let's see.
Maybe
we could taste a little victory cake later. You know what I mean?
Maybe back in the day, like when you won like elections, right? There was cake that got rolled out. Maybe they called that the victory cake. I don't know.
Do you have any baker friends?
Oh, you gotta think about that. No, I don't think so. No. I mean, remember, like women used to pop out of cakes at some of these things. Like they would they would do a thing. I'm like, whoa, why is there a lady?
I've seen the Love Boat. You know, yeah.
Fucking Love Boat.
I feel like that was happening like every episode.
Love Boat. What a great show. Anyway, a fantastic article by you on the various factors involved in winning. And I'm excited about talking about this article because it's such an interesting point of discussion, right? Like, how do you win in this league? And then also, similar to the question I asked to start, like, what do you consider, what is basketball to you, right? Well, what is winning? When I say winning, do people mean winning the championship? Or do they mean, no, just like fucking being a team that just wins a ton, right? Every year we're in the playoffs, you win 48 plus games and things break right, we win 50 something plus and we go deep in the playoffs, right? Like, how do you create that kind of environment? I'll tell you what, it's through painstakingly hard work and various factors that Henry listed out, which I'll let him get into. It ain't the Matt Ishbia model. I'll tell you that. That ain't that fast microwave version.
Yeah.
Ain't that.
Yeah, this cake likes a slower bake. Yeah. And one part, it's a little bit inspired by like what David's doing right now. The reason I'm on the show is because he's out there like
training
mind melding with players in a pretty deep way. And it's surprising to me, like, and he talks all the time about like, make winning plays. There's so many examples of what that means, but it's not the same as making highlights, right?
Correct.
And so the one example that is like, if you block the shot out of bounds, it's just not nearly as useful to your team as if you tap it to a teammate, right? Like, and on. It has a lot to do with how you defend the pick and roll. Like all these little things where you like, you become Derek White if you do all those things right. And there's a lot of players who have Derek White's potential, but don't evolve in that direction, right? Like, but he's a super winning player. I don't know. And for me, it started a little bit when I was a young journalist. I was writing a magazine profile of the Allen Iverson 76ers while they were on their playoff run. And I was like, I was on that story for a long time. I want to say months. I flew to Chicago with that. I did like a bunch of stuff. I was all over. And then in the middle of that, one of the worst things that can happen to a young magazine writer happened to me, which was Gary Smith of Sports Illustrated published a story on the same topic I was writing on. And I sat courtside at a Sixers game and leafed and like read every single word, just looking down as I was like,
this is my story.
Like, dawning on me that my story sucked. Like his was like, he's like the best. And they hadn't even had their big playoff run yet. Right. Like, I mean, maybe I forget exactly when that came out. I feel like it came out maybe before the playoffs, but the point is that it was like very clear that like the key thing that had happened was back in the summer. Now it's accepted as fact this is where it originated from, is that, Larry Brown had the right to be GM of that team and trade whoever he wanted. And he was fucking trading Allen because he was so tired of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Allen came to Larry and was like, no, like, I'm getting married. I'm not going to give you any more ammo to be mad at me. I'm going to go to practice. I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to do, Larry's obsessed with this whole play the right way thing that goes back to freaking Fog Allen, right? Like,
right. Well, he's a Carolina guy who played for Dean Smith and the whole,
Like Larry Brown can't finish his sentence without throwing a play the right way in there, And I can imagine that was extremely annoying to Allen Iverson, but he was like, no, I want to do it. And so then Pat Croce was a very special character, and he got them on the same page. And they were only on the same page for like a year.
Yeah.
But they loved each other during that year, and they hugged a lot. And Allen Iverson led this big comeback in the All-Star game. And then when he got the award for MVP, he's like, where's my coach? Where's my coach? Coach Brown, where's Coach Brown? Like, and give him a big hug. All this stuff, right? It's absolutely convincing that, okay, this level of trust is why that Sixers team won so far. There's one ingredient in victory cake, right? Like, super deep trust. Nobody covering the team in real time has anything on that, right?
Which is so odd. You're recovering. You're on the beat. What do you? But I know why they didn't.
Have you ever seen a beat writer write a game story about they love each other?
No,
like that's just not what they do. It's all about third quarter turnovers.
Correct.
And so it struck me as like, okay, here's one, and this is I'm not the first person to identify this. It's in a million books, whatever. Like, okay, great. So that's a real one. But then I can tell you that if you summarize advanced stats, it's like just making shots. Like the team that shoots better, wins almost all the time.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Like, okay, there's another one, right? Dean Oliver, like 20 years ago now, did like the big book on like basically what do the stats have to say about who wins games. So it's like shooting 40%, turnover 25%, rebounding 20%, free throws 15%. Anyway, on and on. 3-pointers, defense, having a superstar, being professional. It just goes like there's all these things. Like an owner who'll spend sleep affects athletic performance almost more than anything else. Coaching, we haven't mentioned coaching yet. What David's doing right now, player development, like all of these things matter. Most of which leads me to think like anyone who right now it's preview season says like, oh, well, this team's going to be good because like, I was a little guilty. I think on this podcast, I said basically I think the Thunder are my favorites because
they got Caruso and Hartenstein, which by the way, it could be factors in why they ultimately do win.
But when I say that, I'm leaving as an unknown all of this.
Right. Yeah. Right. Correct. We don't know any of the other things that have gone on, and it also, Henry, makes me think about God. Basketball is so unique in that it's a sport that each team has only 5 players on the court at a time. So a team could be negligent at a bunch of this stuff, but they draft fucking LeBron James and got super lucky, and because he's so otherworldly, he's able to trump so much of that other stuff because he's just so excellent. So the team's shitty on trust and they're bad at player development, and like, but this guy's so fucking good and he has such a demanding impact on the game, he's able to override this team's lack of ability to get their other ingredients right.
It's funny, like that might still be true. Like it was definitely true in Michael Jordan's time. But like LeBron in Cleveland was arguably the best LeBron the first time, right? For 7 years of his career. Like he was unbelievable.
He dragged that terrible team to the NBA Finals, that horrendous basketball team.
But he won when he was in an environment of trust like Larry and Allen.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Like, and it took a while. Like it wasn't just like I'm gonna go play with I like Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Like, no, like, it took him a while to like really build this trust and I think simultaneous to this, like, the Warriors rose with a team that was much more team focused, right? Like this is why people try to want to discount Steph because he like doesn't have a Michael Jordan type capability to go 1-on-5. He's little. But the Warriors are better. For most of LeBron's the Warriors are better, and like because they had this team concept going at both ends, right? So I don't know if anymore. Like, definitely superstars. Like I think a top. If you look, other than like the Pistons of the Joe Dumars Pistons, right? You basically have to have a top 20 player.
Yes.
So I think what you're saying is like this big bonus of a LeBron type player, you need it, but I don't know if it is enough to overcome the
everything else,
right? Like I think you have to also
I think to win a championship, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
But I think to just win games, I think LeBron's fine on his own, right? Like he can do that, right? But to win the big thing, ultimately, yes. You
okay, and this is this is maybe not what we're talking about, but for the record, when Kevin Arnovitz and I were in this little town in New Jersey, right after, remember the Baron Davis's big dunk over Andre Karolinko?
I do.
This was like the most exciting Clippers moment of Kevin's life, right? He was a Clippers season ticket holder and a Clippers blogger, and it was like, bam! Like this was like Clippers mattered on the court for the first time in a
forever.
very long time, and it felt really good, right? But if you did any sort of, like, we were criticizing Ishbia for his like short-term thinking or whatever, like getting Baron Davis was kind of the contractual move that kept the Clippers from ever being champions. Like they purchased the middle in a way that they spent all their money, so now you can't get to the top.
Right.
Then we had a debate. I think it's a legitimate debate, right? Where it's like, for me as a fan, I would be mad about that. Right. Because my goal isn't a Baron Davis dunk over Andre Karolinko. Right. I love that.
You want to win you want to consistently win. Yeah.
Or at least I want to like I want to believe that in the long term we're in the mix for championships, right? Like whereas once you're kind of capped out and you're not good enough, it's sad to me.
You had Baron Davis dunking over Karolinko, which again, amazing.
What round of the playoffs was that?
Might have been the first.
I think it might have been the first.
Might have been the first round, right? Like, no, but your point is well taken, right? It is the road you're talking about where we're building that consistent winner who over 10 years, again, 48 plus wins and in the mix for championships. That's fucking hard to do, to build that kind of team. It takes a lot, and you're going to fuck up along the way. And the question is, who within the organization has the pain tolerance, right, to deal with we're gonna fuck up, someone might get fired, like all the various things that happen? And the answer is, in most organizations, nobody, right? Especially not the owner, which is why most teams don't do it. It's let's get the Band-Aid fix instead. Go, Paul George is available, let's get him, let's go get this guy, let's go. And it's like, all right, like, so you'll win, quote unquote win in the short term. You'll win the press conference, as Henry likes to say, so your fans feel good and you feel good, but all you're gonna have is some awesome dunk in the first round as like your highlight, and then it's like, okay, now what? This was the Knicks in the mid 2000s, right? That Carmelo series where everybody went crazy. I was like, it was the first fucking round.
Yeah, that's what you can get. I think that's what, if you assemble a bunch of expensive players and don't think about the long term, like that's what you get. I remember when the Knicks traded for Stephon Marbury. Like, it was a really weird moment. I went to that first game at MSG, and everybody, it's like the whole world knew this was like a championship done deal. It's just a million stars. And the magazine I worked for at the time required a lot of star interviews. So if I saw like a courtside Alicia Keys or whatever, like I had to book over there and just be like, "Hey, tell me why you like basketball." And then
your favorite kind of articles, I know,
love it. But Ed Bradley was there from 60 Minutes, and what a great guy. But so I went over and talked to him. And he's basically like, I don't know what they're gonna do about the salary cap. I feel like the Knicks are kind of screwed.
And you were
it's
like,
fun. It's fun to have like this local guy come home, like, but it seems like it's kind of short lived. And I remember just thinking, like, Ed Bradley,
he
like,
gets it.
You are cut above.
I mean, he's Ed Bradley. Of course he gets it. He's a smart dude.
He's still getting courtside tickets and like high fiving Spike Lee and stuff. Like, but that's why didn't James Dolan get that?
It just. It is this inability, right, to stomach the work of the law, because it's just harder that way, right? Like
it's eating your vegetables.
Yes, nobody wants to do that shit.
Yeah,
I don't want that. I just want to eat fucking, I don't know, lobster thermidor or whatever the fuck, it's way better. And it's cool, but I'm not gonna feel great eating lobster thermidor every night.
Can we just talk for a second, just for people who might be confused? What's lobster thermidor again?
It is a cooked lobster dish with like a lot of butter and brandy, and it's good. It's man. It's very delicious. But
do you have a favorite place to get your lobster thermidor?
I knew once I said that, I was like, oh shit, he's gonna
made a mistake.
He's gonna tell me about your lobster thermidor.
I don't know anything about it. Yeah,
the standard downtown in Meatpacking used to make it. I don't know if they still make it. But it's pretty delicious. Delicious dish.
Yeah. Does it taste like victory cake?
I mean, when you look at your bill, you're like, fucking A, because it costs so much fucking money. But similar thing, right? delicious in the moment. Look at, and then when the bill comes due, you're like, was that actually worth it? Oh, you see your statement the next thing, you're like, I mean, it was great in the moment, but damn, that's fucking expensive, right? Like, versus let me get some green beans and some carrots and the potatoes and then right? Like,
I kind of it's like, I mean, I believe what I'm saying because I am a Blazers fan already, right? And they're like in the absolute trough of this, right? Like, I'm still excited about how they're doing what they're doing. Like, I'm such a true believer, but like the way the Thunder, like, it comes online, it's kind of like if you go to a concert and they'll like, like maybe there's a little section with just like guitar. Yeah. And after a while, the lights come up and like, oh, we got some drums. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, this other singer wanders out. Next thing you know, you're like, we are fucking moving here. Like, this is like, this is fun. Like, the Thunder feel like that right now.
Yes,
right?
They do.
Yeah, it's been a little quiet. It's been kind of Shea and then Shea plus one. Like, but now it's like, oh, they got like the whole choir coming in with like there's like the whole thing is happening now.
They're jamming right now. They are. Yeah.
That is fun. Like, that's fun to see. Fun to be part of.
How much of that too, Henry, is like the idea of like the most fun time is when the group, the band, the team, whatever is on the come up, right? Like, that's when the ride's the best, right? When you're catching the rocket up.
Yeah.
If they do ascend to the top and whatever, maybe the ride gets a little less pleasant up there. I mean, you win, but I think about it in terms of Warrior fans, right? Like, they're the most unhappy people in the world right now. And I'm like, guys, but you fucking won 4 of the last 8. Like, what's the beef? Like, now everything's fucking awful. Steve Kerr's an idiot. Like, everything's terrible every night. And I'm like, guys, I don't like,
they're a special group. Like, I mean, it was really exciting, honestly. Like, when they were on the rise, right? This was an Oakland story, and these were like this kind of shitty old Coliseum, and like it felt very much like these poor people have been supporting this. Hunger's the best seasoning, right? Like, they were hungry.
Yep.
Like, but then they got this like just ridiculous stadium that's like all wine cellars and private rooms, and they won't even come out for the third quarter because they're doing so much hobnobbing. And I think with the kind of wealth that's in that arena now, like, these aren't people who are accustomed to inconvenience.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And delay.
That. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just like, like, just make it marvelous. Like, right? Just make it marvelous. Like,
you're right.
How much is the bill? Just make it marvelous, right? And like it's just the salary cap just doesn't work that way.
These are people who don't care about the cost of lobster thermometer. They're like, it's fine. Just get more. Order more lobster thermometer.
Get 3.
Like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah. 10, 15, whatever. Yeah.
No, it is. Look, it's tough being a fan, right? Like, it really is. Like, just because you never know what the fuck your team is doing, and I think that's ultimately like fans would love to know, right? Just be straight up with me, right? Where is winning on the list of priorities? If it is 45th to you, then
can you?
Then at least I know something. I know how to then give the energy requisite for 45th on the list,
so I can stop being a Bulls fan. Yeah.
Sorry, Travis.
Sorry, Travis.
But that's the point, right? If that's not what you care about, then cool. Yeah. I will give this the proper energy that it deserves.
Right.
But it's hope they sell you on. No, we care. Look, we just signed whatever player X. We're gonna get DeMar DeRozan. We're gonna get this one. And it's like, ooh, you care. We have a chance. But you don't.
Well, and there are like, there is money to be made if you're a cheap owner in revenue sharing.
Got that right.
And like these the Thunder during the dark years of the rebuild were also like owners have set it up so that they don't feel pain.
You're pocketing all that cash.
Yeah, like you get to take money out of the team during those years, and that's a choice. I don't know. It's a welfare type system, right? Like,
which is so funny because these motherfuckers don't want welfare in the real world, but we want it.
They don't do this in Europe, right?
Definitely
European sports don't have this, right? They're just like, if you're bad, you're bad, and it hurts.
Sucks to be you.
But we have set it up this way, and like it's to your point, as a fan, wouldn't you like to know, like, hey, Donald Sterling, are you going to just extract money from the team every year? If so, like, I think you're a sucker to root for that team.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Most fans, because it's designed that way, for you not to know what's ultimately going on, right?
You don't have to know.
So instead, they do the magic trick. They trick you with the shiny thing. Oh, look, we just got so and so. We care about winning, and really ain't that high on the list of priorities, folks.
Just a bunch of Corey Maggette. Yeah.
All these people catching strays in the pot today. Corey Maggette. Carmelo, like everybody catches straight.
You know how it is, like there's always every single roster has someone you can dream on, right? That's just because of us, really.
Yes. Yeah, I know,
like
you're right.
For a while there for the Clippers, I know it was like
Corey Maggette.
And it's like I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he's fantastic, but like he was never that guy.
It never happened. No, you're right. No, and when you're a fan too, let's say you drafted him in particular, you hold him even tighter to your heart because you're like, that's our guy. We drafted him. I believe. I see. And it's like,
and then David Thorpe's like, you should trade Corey Maggette for like a first round pick, and they're like, whoa, David, that's Corey Maggette. Like it's like, nah, man, it's just Corey Maggette. Like it's just. Unless you don't want to win a championship, in which case he can just be
keep him.
Actually, like Dominique Wilkins is an interesting, or George Gervin, right? These were like legitimately exciting players who were not really that close to winning a championship, right? And like, I don't, how do you feel about that? It's up to you. Like, but I'm like,
give me something else.
Yeah.
Well, it's what David said. Was it before the beginning of last summer, before they got Dame? Bucks should trade Giannis now. And Milwaukee fans went ape shit. How's that looking now, folks? Probably pretty good.
They're gonna keep him. They're very high on that little list of basketball poetry list, right? I predict they're gonna keep him another year, and he's gonna be hurt more. Unfortunately, take no joy in that. And we think he's not learning how to shoot threes this summer, right? And then 2 years late, they're gonna trade him for
pennies on the dollar.
Just to get, I mean, they're a small market.
Yep.
And this team is going to get very expensive.
Yep. It's already expensive. And they were not one of David's 8 playoff contenders. And I love Giannis. I think Dame's a special player. I love what Chris, but like, talk about old guys and Giannis isn't old, but guys who are oft injured. That's that trio. Like, don't see good things happening
now. I mean, Giannis was never injured, really, but like now, and he's not old, but he's old for his style of play.
Correct.
Right? He's nearing. You just can't be the most aggressive, physical, out beasting everybody play after play in your 30s, right?
Ends at some point.
Yeah. So then they'll trade him. I predict they will trade Giannis just because he'll have residual value, and he will be able to deliver them some luxury tax relief, right? But they're going to get, like, what would you get for him next year if he's injured this year at all? Like,
not what you could have gotten last year.
And his salary goes up. Like, it's just going to be so much. Yeah.
But then if you're a Bucks fan, you did win the one championship. So was it all worth it? Because you got the one.
Well, when you say it all, though, we're talking about Giannis extension, Chris extension, and Dame, right? Like, you didn't need all those last things.
You're right, correct. You didn't need those. You're right. Didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, those ones didn't get you a championship.
Oh, man. Hey, this is, look, we joke and we're tongue in cheek about a lot of this stuff, but truth be told, it is very difficult to do this, right? Like, it just is. And there's no guarantees, and you're going to make mistakes, right? Guys who you thought were going to develop don't for whatever reason. Like, things just happen, right? But I think ultimately, if you have the right people in place and you have a system and a mission and vision that you believe in, that is what we're going to fall back on more times than not, I think you will be successful, right? It's like business, right? Like, I don't know, you can say what you want about this dude, but like Jack Welch has his like business principles, right? Like, this is how like I see how a company should be run. He's a relatively successful CEO, right? Like, we fall back on these principles, like more often than not, we'll be okay. Doesn't mean we won't have bad years. Of course you will. Sometimes I'll pick the wrong whatever, or the wrong executive to do this. Like, that's going to happen. But over the course, if we ride with what we think is the right thing to do, we should be good. I just don't think a lot of teams have that, right? If you ask any GM or owner, what's your team's like, mission and vision? They're probably like, not besides making money, right? Like, they couldn't tell you anything, right? And I'm like, well, that's probably your problem.
Jarod, we sometimes talk about politics, and we sometimes joke about you as a communist. And you just quoted Jack Welch.
I know.
We're going to take all your cards away.
My comrade designation is getting taken away. I know.
Did you read his book?
I did, but if you look at it like objectively, right? Like, again, I hate late stage capitalism and all the things, but if your goal of your company is to make money and turn share on investments for your shareholders and all that, right? Like, in a vacuum, he's done that well for a number of years at certain companies, right? Like, so, okay, I guess you know what you're doing, I would assume, right? By this metric, right? That is the metric you are graded on, right? Like, you are
I don't know much
metric.
about him, to be honest, but he came up in my life once when like someone who knew David Stern really well said that like Stern was the last of the Jack Welch style leaders, which were like, the method was like, I don't give a fuck what you did before. I don't give a fuck what your talents are. Like, you're here in my house now, and I'm going to tell you how we do it. Right.
Essentially.
And like, so it's a little bit like all the intelligence emanates from like one person. And now it's seen as like you're much stronger if you can get like people getting victories all over. Right. But he was the one kind of like no, my way or the highway kind of thing. Which I don't know anything about Jack Welch, but I know about David Stern.
And you can argue that David Stern had successes as right? Like it's like the Michael Jordan thing you always go back to. Like, very successful, right?
Yeah.
Do I want him to be my teammate? Probably not. Right? Like,
well, at what age? Like at his current age, like when he's playing Candy Crush.
Maybe not, because he's not paying attention to me, right? But you had to be a specific kind of person and tough-minded to deal with that, right? Because he was coming at you, or like a bully you had to stand up to him, like Cartwright did, right? The one famous story is like, you do that again, I'm gonna fucking break your legs, right? Like, and then it's like, okay, you're not talking to him anymore, right? Like,
a story that I've never really been able to do, but like bullying, like actual physical, like don't come in my space kind of bullying is a big part of how you win NBA games. And like, it's not pleasant, but like teams that don't have Draymond Green,
I was just gonna say Draymond.
Like, he's literally determining who gets to go where with his mouth mostly, but also with his body, right? And like if you have a defense where everyone just gets to run wherever they want, like, you're very easy to score on, right? And there's a whole, like, if you know, I've been lucky enough in my life to sit in amazing seats at times when you can hear everything. Like, a lot of the dialogue on the court is, you don't get to go there. You stay out of here, whatever. Right. They don't always say it nice.
No, a lot of F-bombs get thrown. Ain't no niceness about that.
If you don't have that like ability on your, if you're just like skilled players, like you're missing a lot. And like, it's kind of hard to see it in the stats. It's hard to get people to talk about it. It's hard to like understand what it's about. But like, this is what like Shaq was doing. Greg Ostertag was just like, this is my place.
Greg Ostertag.
This is not your place.
Other dude catching strays.
Oh, he got all the strays.
He got all the. Listen, he was one of Shaq's whipping boys. Many centers of the league at that time were Shaq's whipping boys. Like, that's just.
When my son was little, he had, I don't know why, but he had like a fold out intersection of a basketball magazine, which was just Shaq, just like doing the most humiliating dunking over Greg Ostertag,
like putting his nuts in his face. Like, it's you know, that's
not what you want.
There is a lot of that though in this league, right? There's so much aggro, bravado, testosterone, and like, for lack of a better term, pissing on territory. And it's like, like, really? Is this?
Yeah.
But like, to your point, you kind of need that to win.
This is why you sign old Pat Bev, you know? Like, or it's why Udonis Haslem is the most valuable, non-playing player, right? And on. It's like, Hey, Jarod, do we have a couple minutes for my Post-it notes?
Oh yeah. You said I thought your Post-it notes were related to the stuff we were already talking about. Silly me.
The only reason I want to talk about it is because I'm very proud of my Post-it notes.
Let's do it. Well, also, guys, they should also tell. I mean, Henry is a pretty digital and like, you know, modern guy, but Post-it notes are a very big staple of like his life still. So, you know.
Well, you know why I'm using Post-it notes.
Why?
It's because my friend Hector, producer of this show, has banned me from having the document open.
That's right. Screw up the computer. That's right. Shut that thing down because you're gonna screw up the fucking.
Yeah, so I gotta use.
I love it.
We gotta use Post-its.
I love it.
Also, another thing happened in my life, major improvement. So, my daughter's at college, and she uses Post-its. Like, it's absurd. Like it's like they're paying her for the Post-it.
Love it.
But I was like, man, like we have Post-it notes like on and off in our house. You know, it's like a good day if you find a Post-it that's available.
Oh, a little note.
But then I realized, like, you can buy. I was buying them wrong. you don't want to buy like a little 5 post. You want to buy the price break is absurd if you get like
the fucking bundle.
A bundle.
Yeah.
Since that happened, this whole world is just awash in Post-it notes. Yeah, I'm sticking them everywhere.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's what's happening.
Let's do it. Post-it notes. What do you got?
Okay, so you were talking about can some of these bad teams.
Yeah.
For some reason, we got to the Bulls, the Blazers, and the Nets.
Yeah, who are probably going to be among the worst teams in the league this year.
Yeah,
not probably. Who will be?
And they all have veterans.
They do.
So the habit of the past in the NBA is you trade your DeAndre Ayton for some great young player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is that going to happen, right? And I short answer, I don't think so. Like the big earners of these teams, it says on my Post-it notes, are like Zach LaVine makes $43 million. DeAndre Ayton makes 34. Ben Simmons makes 40.
Oh, he's gonna be. I mean, that's
Jeremy Grant makes 29.
That's a player that's gonna move for sure.
Probably
Not for sure, but I would guess.
But like I think these, Lonzo Ball makes 21.
He's hurt, so I don't know.
Makes 20. So if you look at how one of these players, I think out of all the NBA from like a bad team, it was the Blazers traded for Denny Avdija, right? So you can get
like him.
They gave up picks and got Denny Avdija. The picks they gave up are arguably worth close to Denny Avdija.
Yeah.
So basically, you can get whatever you add with one of these players back, kind of thing.
Yep.
Because the league is essentially capped out. The same chart we were talking about before, where everybody's up around the luxury tax, or the teams that are below the tax, like presumably have owners who don't want to go into the luxury tax.
That's why they're there. Yeah.
So I think it might be alarmingly bad strategy right now. The Bulls are particularly fucked, I think. I mean, who?
Sorry, Travis.
I mean, like they gave everyone's like, oh, they got these horrible deals.
Yeah.
I think that just might be the market is now.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you want someone to pay Alex Caruso, they don't really want to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
LaVine at 43 and he has 2 years left. He's 29 and he plays an athletic style where it's going to age worse. Like,
not
it's
great.
Just Vooch is 33. Lonzo's hurt.
Yep.
They could maybe trade like Javon Carter makes $6.5 million. Chris Duarte makes 5.8, and those guys are in their late 20s. Yeah. But if you're one of these teams, like you don't want anybody. Like no one who's 27 is going to be on your team when you're good again. So it's like, see you guys. They have they also have the Bulls have a particularly stupid thing, which is they have 3 players right now have player options.
Oh God.
This is a team that was just all in on winning now, and they just didn't come close. Right?
No, they were. I don't think in the past 5 years, Henry, they finished inside the top 6. I know they didn't. They were either playing or nothing.
Yeah,
and they did. This is just bad. Like that again, guys. This is bad management. Like you're just.
Like every fan is like, let's be all in right now, and like this is where it gets you, right? Like a little injury, this and that. So. They have, they also don't have a lot of expirings. So like they're not going to get cheap either.
Yep.
It's going to be so bad. I'm sorry. Like they have Giddey and Matas Buzelis, right? Who's only 19, I think.
And they got
right?
Ayo, who we like.
Yeah. So these are some, there's some little things to build on, but Giddey's not signed.
No?
Like, I mean, he's signed for this year.
Oh, but not,
they got to pay him.
Jesus.
Then they have another bad deal. I don't like this. Yeah, it's so bad. Okay,
terrible.
So that's the Bulls. I don't think there's any way out.
Nope.
Like no one's giving you anything for Zach LaVine.
Nobody's smart anyway.
So the Blazers have this interesting thing, which is they have a lot of veterans.
They do.
They have DeAndre Ayton, Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, Denny Avdija, Robert Williams, Matisse Thybulle. I'm going to throw in Duop Reith, who's 28 years old.
You like him, though.
Okay, so if you do a simple, this is something that Blazer fans never do, but I would recommend you just look at the advanced stats and see who's good on your team. I think it's like the best kept secret in the league. Who do you think is the best Blazer?
Probably Duop Reith.
That's a good guess because how I set this up. But he's actually second.
Okay.
So Denny's best now.
Okay.
Then Duop Reith, who makes $2 million a year.
Yeah.
He's a excellent, huge defender, and he shoots threes.
I mean,
usually works.
And $2 million? I mean,
yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
But now they have 4 centers. So, like with Klingon, like, and Ayton, maybe you won't play at all. It's
Right.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Then I think I'm right that the third best Blazer is Tamani Kamara, who makes 1.9 million, 23 years old. Then it's Ayton.
Nice.
Then it's Jeremy Grant. Well, that's Ant Simons, Jeremy Grant, these guys that are like more famous, right?
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, I feel like I bet they would happily trade everybody who's over the age of 26 from this team. But I don't know if you can. Well, I don't know if you can get something good for it.
This is the point about people being famous and whatever and all that. Like the Duop and Denny, right? And those are the guys, and Kamara. Those are the guys that teams should actually be targeting.
Yeah.
But teams are like, oh, Jeremy Grant, we're gonna Ayton, and I'm like, not that they're not value, they are, but for a dollar per value on how much they contribute to helping your team, these three far better and will help you, right? Like, but maybe
the trick is to package them. Maybe it's like maybe the Laker, or I don't know who. It's very hard to put these deals together because everyone's kept out. But like maybe it's like Jeremy and Duop together.
Right, yes, yeah, you're gonna have to take one of the big contracts to get the one you want if you're Maybe the Thunder. Take a look at the Thunder. They may say, might be interested in the Duop Wreath.
He's a plus player. Like, and a great, everyone loves him. Like, did you see the Scoot thing when they signed? He was at All-Star Weekend. And that's like, come on, that's not common. And then there's the Nets. I'm sorry not to make this show like 7 hours long.
No.
I use paid Post-it notes, but
I love it. I want to hear the Post-it notes.
So
this team's gonna be bad this year, folks. Real bad.
The Nets are So Ben Simmons. He's 40 million, but he's expiring. So that's actually
it has value.
Like I think for the Nets, they just keep him in.
Yeah, I agree. I think just keep it so that money expires in you. Yeah.
Then Bogdanovich is also old. He's much older.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he makes 19 million, but he's also expiring. As is Dennis Schroeder, who makes 13 million, also expiring. So I could see that the Nets will keep
those three.
Yeah, just let them all.
Yeah.
Or they can stretch them, whatever.
Because that's all. When they expire, that's all now that gets you under the cap, or that's all money that opens back up now, right? Depending on where you are.
This is why the Nets are like the player in next summer's free agency, right? It's because of these three guys, and they're not critical,
right?
Like you don't need them. Okay, but interesting also though is they have Cam Johnson makes 22.5.
Henry's favorite player. No, that's Cam Thomas. Sorry, wrong Cam.
I actually do like Cam Johnson. But he's 28.
Yes.
He's older than you think.
He is.
Like, and he has value.
Rough year last year, but yeah, he's got value.
But 28 is probably just not on their schedule anymore.
No.
And Dorian Finney-Smith is 31 and makes 15 million. I could see that's where it gets interesting to me trade-wise is Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't know if they count. Is Dorian Finney-Smith like a stopper still? Is that like a?
I mean, what does advanced metrics say? Probably not.
Yeah.
Let me see. Dorian Finney-Smith.
Does he fill the?
He is. Yep, still an 84th percentile defender. So yep, still a stopper.
Except for when Kevin Durant talks about him, like right. I don't know. What do you think? You think they're just gonna go?
I think they're gonna let those three expire. To your point, so they open up that money. I think some team might be convinced that DFS is the wing player they need. The D anyway, the three ain't really there, 34%, but is what it is. Johnson, I think because he's 28, he's a little bit younger. I think he can potentially have a bounce back year and get himself under the right circumstances where he's shooting well from three again and playing good defense. He's the one I think you could potentially move. And again,
the Nuggets need a Cam Johnson.
But they have no money and no whatever. I don't know what they can do to get him. They don't. They might not even have any picks. And salary first. If you can get a young guy, who do they think that's young on the Nugget side that they're cool to like move out? But again, salary matching. What's Cam make this year?
22.5. Yeah.
I mean, that's.
I don't think they can do it.
They have nobody who's anywhere near that they would want to move.
Like abduct him. Yeah.
But Cam would be. I think Cam is someone. But again, no team I think can, except for Oklahoma City, has the right pieces that they can move around. Again, everybody's kind of capped out at this point.
Yeah.
And Cam does not fit into the Nets' long-term plan. If their thing is Nick Claxton and that crew and whoever they're going to
Nick Claxton's on the border, right? Like
because he's what 25, 4 or 5? How old is he now?
I think I saw he's 25.
Okay, yeah, you're right. He's border. Yeah, he's on the border now.
If they get a great offer for Nick Claxton, I think you got to take it. Right?
Yeah, you're right. That's what we talked about before, right? You better move it now because when he's got high value, because if he has a bad year or something happens and now he's a 7. Or you're going to get 6 or 5 money for him, right? So
yeah. Thanks for the callback there.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So you joined us late. I'm not wearing sunglasses because I'm an asshole. Just want to recap that.
Henry's in his mid-age rock star phase right now. That's why he's wearing glasses.
And actually, in the little Riverside screenshot of me, it looks like at a glance like I'm wearing like a gold chain too.
It does. Yeah. With the glasses, I mean, listen, man. Listen, whatever floats your boat, my guy.
The jersey's coming out, Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting year, right? Because all the teams are kept out. So with that in mind, are we to see more in terms of trades this season? Shuffling deck chairs on that Titanic, right? Where it's like nothing really is going to move because no one has, besides Oklahoma City, has the ability to make any kind of earth-shattering move, right? Because
I think what will happen is, so right now, I think it feels like there are a dozen contenders. A dozen teams probably think they're contenders, right? And then by February, we're down to like 6.
Right, yeah.
And then those 6 will... Now the market favors them, right? Now they're like, all right, let me have your Cam Johnson or whatever we need to add here, right?
Yeah.
Robert Williams, or there's a bunch of Matisse Thybulle. We haven't talked enough about Matisse Thybulle.
So defensively, for sure, has the shooting gotten better?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the main point.
I've not watched enough Blazers games too.
I think he's at like 38%, something like that.
That's pretty good.
And he only makes $11 million. He's 27. Like I can't believe some good team doesn't want that guy. He's an unbelievable perimeter defender.
He's yes. 2 years ago, he was 97. 3 years, he was on a 99th percentile. He's legit.
And there is a little bit of a thing where players come to the Blazers and their defensive stats kind of go to shit because
their teammates also suck. I mean,
my suspicion is that as a Celtic,
it's going to be way better.
It's going to be way better.
Well, David and I talked about that to wrap the show here. It's always impressive when guys in shitty situations still find ways to improve. Like your player Abdia. Washington was a dumpster fire, and he got better there. I'm like, now he's going from dumpster fire to slightly better dumpster fire now.
Thank you.
So, because you have Scoot, so you have hope. I think of okay. I mean, really, your team. When Jody Allen fucking gets off her ass and figures out what the fuck she's going to do, which is basically wait till she gets the free money from expansion, then sells the team. I think then maybe whoever comes in, if winning is high on their list of priorities, you might be good again. I don't know.
They don't. I actually like what the Blazers are doing. They're just like he says all the time. Joe Cronin says it all the time. He's not like my favorite guy or whatever. But I think he's right. It's like we don't have enough talent, and so they're just just putting it, and there's I don't have the roster in front of me, but there are a tremendous number of players under the age of 24 who have potential, right? Shaden Sharp, Tamani Kamara,
all these guys, I love them.
Denny, Denny's only 23. So Aiden's only 26. I guess I just feel like Donovan Clingan now, right?
Yep.
Chris Murray, and on. There are these players who are kind of they're not all gonna suck, and once enough of them are good, it's a good team. And so, they're just going to keep filling that pipeline. They're going to have some really good picks coming up, including from the terrible Milwaukee Bucks.
Sorry, Bucks.
Anyway, I think it's it's just this early phase of the Thunder.
Do you think that Chauncey is the man for this continued rebuild?
The Blazers seem not to think that. They fired his brother.
Not a good sign for you, Chauncey, if your brother's getting fired.
And they didn't re-up his deal. It's such a slap in the face. Yeah. And that's where I don't like. I feel like Joe Cronin drives a really hard bargain, which is great when it's negotiating time, but bad when it's team building time. And if he's not having this mistrust in the inner circle,
not good.
I don't like it. I would just be like, if we don't think he's the guy, just
then tell him now and cut the Band-Aid. What are we doing?
Let's get someone you do think is the guy.
I agree.
To me, the big test is Scoot, right?
Yes.
Chauncey sees Scoot as young Chauncey, and
which is a good thing.
It's a great thing. They talk like they really love each other. If Scoot develops, and I know he's been widely seen as a disappointment in his rookie year, but he did his shooting dramatically improved over the course of the year. Someone's doing something. He's working at something. And David saw him in summer in LA and was unimpressed. But
he was very clear on that.
Yeah. But if the Chauncey Scoot thing like blossoms and they really trust each other, then I think he's the right guy.
Yeah.
Right. Assuming it doesn't, then assuming the GM doesn't like Chauncey, appears he didn't hire him, then I guess they probably already know who they want. They probably, just okay, let's do it. Just let Chauncey go. Chauncey will get a job.
Oh,
he'll be somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Chauncey. It's just more like, again, like this is what we talked about, folks. Like Cronin doesn't like Chauncey, so that means it's just, and your owner's kind of absentee. Like if you want those three people have to be not best friends, but at least in lockstep about what they want to do. And if they're not, like that's just not good. I don't think, right, for your long-term success. Whatevs, man.
And they're having a bunch of like something's up with the coaching staff. Like the G League coach, like the top assistant went to the Nets. Like basically, like it's then they like assigned a guy from the front office to go coach the G League team this year. Like I don't know if they got super cheap with coaches or playing some game with the contracts or something, but it's a fire sale on coaches right now, and that's not how winning cultures are built. I don't think.
Well, see, and there you hit the nail on the head. Like, yes, if you don't have any talent, it don't matter. But if you have an organization that gives you the opportunity to build a winning culture and build habits that lead to a winning culture? This is the problem, folks. So if you're rooting for NBA teams, this is not unique to the Blazers. Your team probably has some version of this fucked up thing going on also. Like,
unless you're a Celtics fan.
Yeah. Well, yes, because you're fucking lucky and you have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and fucking Brad Stevens. And right? Like you got and Joe Mazzulla, you got a bunch of guys, and Derek White and Drew Holiday, right? You've got talent, guys who know their roles, who give a shit about winning, make winning plays. Like, you know, lucky Celtics. Fuck you guys. I'm not bitter.
I think we just came up with the headline for the podcast.
Nice. Clip it. This is the clip. All right, folks. Have a great weekend. We will see you next week.